If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Sharing it with your friends and family helps spread knowledge. And when we help others grow, we grow too. Thank you so much for listening. Let's dive into the podcast. The Birth of Doubt, Bill Kaysing's Claims. The year was 1976. America was still healing from Watergate. Trust in government had cracked wide open. Into this fragile moment stepped a man named Bill Kaysing with a book that would change everything. Kaysing wasn't just anyone. He had worked at Rocketdyne, the company that built the rocket engines for the Apollo missions. For years, he sat in meetings. He read classified reports. He watched engineers struggle with problems that seemed impossible to solve. Then he wrote a book. The title was bold and shocking. We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 billion swindle. The book hit like a thunderbolt. Here was someone who had been inside the space program, someone who knew the secrets, and he was saying it was all fake. Kaysing's claims were specific and troubling. He said NASA simply couldn't do it. The technology wasn't ready. The rockets failed too often. How could they suddenly work perfectly when it mattered most? He pointed to the famous moon photos. Where were the stars? In space, stars should shine bright against the black sky. But the pictures showed nothing. Just empty darkness above the astronauts. The shadows looked wrong, too. They fell in different directions. On the moon, with only the sun for light, all shadows should point the same way. Yet in photo after photo, shadows seemed to dance in impossible patterns. Where was the blast crater? When the lunar module landed, its rocket should have carved a deep hole in the moon's surface. But the photos showed smooth ground beneath the spacecraft. No crater, no scattered dust, nothing. Kaysing had darker theories. He believed the Apollo 1 fire wasn't an accident. 3 astronauts died in that capsule during a routine test. Kaysing claimed they were killed because they knew too much. They were going to expose the hoax. Reports went missing. Witnesses stayed silent. The evidence seemed to vanish whenever someone got too close to the truth. His technical background gave weight to his words. This wasn't some wild outsider making crazy claims. This was a man who had worked on the very rockets that supposedly took us to the moon. The timing was perfect. Americans had just learned their president was a liar. If Nixon could fool the whole country, what else might be fake? What other grand deceptions were hiding in plain sight? Kaysing's book spread like wildfire. People began asking questions they had never asked before. They looked at those grainy moon photos with new eyes. They wondered if the greatest achievement in human history was actually the greatest lie ever told. The seeds of doubt were planted. They would grow for decades to come. The shadow and the flag, photo evidence controversy. The photos came first. Long before anyone questioned government documents or missing records, people stared at the pictures from the moon and felt something was wrong. It started with the shadows. In photo after photo from Apollo missions, the shadows seemed to point in different directions. On Earth, the sun casts shadows that all fall the same way. But these moon pictures showed shadows going left, while others went right, as if multiple bright lights were shining from different spots. Studio lights. That was the whisper that started everything. Film experts studied the images with magnifying glasses. They traced the shadow lines with rulers and protractors. The math didn't add up. If the sun was the only light source, every shadow should point the same direction. But they didn't. Then came the flag problem. Everyone had seen the footage of American astronauts planting the stars and stripes on the lunar surface. But something looked strange about that flag. It moved. It rippled and waved like a flag on a breezy day at the beach. The moon has no air, no wind, no atmosphere at all. A flag on the moon should hang limp and still, never moving unless someone touches it. Yet there it was, on national television, fluttering for the world to see. People rewound their home videotapes. They watched the flag move again and again. Frame by frame, they saw it wave and bend. Some swore they could see it responding to air currents, as if someone had walked past it in a television studio. The photos spread through magazines and newspapers. Talk show hosts held up the shadow pictures and asked uncomfortable questions. Scientists tried to explain, but their answers felt complicated and hard to believe. Photography experts joined the conversation. They pointed out impossible lighting angles and questioned why stars weren't visible in the black space behind the astronauts. Professional photographers said the images looked staged, too perfect, too clean. Each new photo analysis added fuel to the growing fire of doubt. The visual evidence felt concrete and undeniable. Anyone could look at the pictures and see the problems. You didn't need advanced degrees or inside information. You just needed eyes. The shadow and flag controversies transformed quiet suspicions into loud public debate. What started as technical questions about rocket fuel and radiation became something everyone could understand. The pictures told a story that didn't match the official version of events. These visual mysteries became the foundation for decades of questions about what really happened during those summer days in 1969. The rise of public suspicion, polls, and persistent belief. The doubts that began in small circles soon spread across nations like wildfire. Poll after poll revealed a startling truth. Millions of people around the world had serious questions about what happened in July 1969. In America, surveys showed that between 6 and 20% of citizens believed the moon landing was fake. The numbers varied, but they never disappeared. Britain showed similar patterns. Russia displayed even higher rates of disbelief. Italy joined the chorus of doubt. These weren't just random opinions. They formed clear patterns that stretched across decades. Something had changed in the public mind. The Vietnam War had ended badly. Watergate had shattered trust in government. People who once believed everything officials told them now asked hard questions. The moon landing became another target of their suspicion. Television producers noticed this shift. In 2001, Fox Broadcasting aired a special called Conspiracy Theory: Did We Land on the Moon? The program reached millions of viewers. It presented the hoax theory as serious news. Other networks followed suit. Books filled store shelves. Documentaries appeared on cable channels. The media had given conspiracy theories a megaphone. What once lived in the shadows now sat in living rooms across America. Families watched together as experts questioned official photos. They heard about missing stars in space pictures. They learned about flags waving where no wind could blow. Publishers discovered that doubt sold well. Authors wrote entire books challenging NASA's story. These weren't obscure pamphlets anymore. Major bookstores displayed them prominently. Libraries stocked their shelves with titles questioning the greatest achievement in human history. The internet changed everything. Websites popped up overnight. Forums buzzed with heated debates. Video platforms hosted hours of analysis. Social media spread theories faster than ever before. A person could wake up believing in the moon landing and go to sleep convinced it was fake. Digital technology gave everyone a voice. Amateur investigators shared their findings with global audiences. Professional-looking videos presented compelling arguments. The line between expert analysis and clever editing became harder to see. Conspiracy theorists had found their perfect moment. Public trust was low. Media platforms were hungry for content. Technology made spreading ideas easier than breathing. They didn't need to convince everyone. They only needed to plant seeds of doubt. Those seeds grew into forests of disbelief. Each generation discovered the questions anew. Parents passed suspicions to children. Teachers found themselves explaining why some people didn't believe. The doubt had become part of modern culture. What started as whispered questions had become a roaring conversation that refused to end. Hollywood and alleged inside help, Kubrick and film set theories. The whispers started in the shadows of Hollywood, where dreams and reality blur together like smoke. In 1968, a brilliant filmmaker named Stanley Kubrick released the movie that changed everything. 2001: A Space Odyssey showed audiences scenes of space that looked more real than anything they had ever seen. The movie's spacecraft moved through the void with perfect silence. Astronauts floated weightlessly through gleaming white corridors. Earth hung in the darkness like a blue marble. People walked out of theaters wondering if they had glimpsed the future of space travel. But some began to wonder something else entirely. Kubrick had created magic with cameras and lights. He had made the impossible look absolutely real. His attention to detail was legendary among filmmakers. Every shot was planned with mathematical precision. Every shadow fell exactly where he wanted it to fall. Then came July 1969. The world watched grainy footage of Neil Armstrong stepping onto the moon's surface. The images were historic, but they were also strangely familiar to some viewers. The stark lighting, the careful camera angles, the way the shadows fell across the lunar landscape. Could it be that NASA had hired the one man who already knew how to make space look real? The theory spread like wildfire through underground circles. People pointed to the timing. Kubrick's masterpiece had premiered just 1 year before the moon landing. The government had unlimited budgets for secret projects. Hollywood had the technology to fool millions of viewers. Believers in the theory found connections everywhere they looked. Kubrick was known for his secrecy during filming. He demanded complete control over his sets. He worked with the most advanced equipment available. If anyone could stage something this elaborate, it would be him. The filmmaker himself never directly addressed these claims during his lifetime. His silence only fed the rumors. Some said he had signed agreements that kept him quiet forever. Others claimed he had left hidden clues in his later movies. The theory gained new life with each passing decade. Internet forums buzzed with analysis of camera angles and lighting techniques. People compared still frames from the moon footage to scenes from Kubrick's films. They found similarities that seemed too perfect to be coincidence. Yet no smoking gun ever emerged. No contracts were discovered. No assistants came forward with confessions. No technical equipment was traced back to a secret soundstage. The Kubrick theory became something larger than proof or evidence. It became a symbol of how sophisticated people believed any hoax would need to be. If the moon landings were faked, only a master of illusion could have pulled it off. The story continues to fascinate because it bridges two worlds that rarely meet. On one side stands the cold precision of space science. On the other lies the warm creativity of Hollywood magic. Both worlds, in their own way, specialize in making the impossible seem real. Supposed whistleblowers and tragic losses. The Apollo 1 fire connection. The fire started so fast. January 27, 1967. 3 brave astronauts sat inside Apollo 1 during what should have been a routine test. Gus Grissom, Ed White, and Roger Chaffee never walked out alive. The cabin filled with flames in seconds. Pure oxygen fed the fire like gasoline. The hatch door took 90 seconds to open from the inside. The men had 17 seconds before the heat became deadly. NASA called it a tragic accident, but some people whispered different words in dark corners. They said this fire was no accident at all. Gus Grissom had been asking hard questions. He hung a lemon on the Apollo simulator. A lemon means something broken, something that does not work right. Was he trying to tell the world that Apollo was fake? His wife Betty found something strange after his death. Someone had gone through Gus's papers. Important documents were missing. Files about Apollo had vanished without explanation. Who took them? Why? The fire investigation found many problems. Faulty wiring, poor design, dangerous materials everywhere. But conspiracy believers saw something else. They saw three men who knew too much, silenced forever. Ed White had been NASA's golden boy, the first American to walk in space. But even he asked questions about safety. Roger Chaffee was new, eager, and smart. Too smart, some say. More strange deaths followed. A contractor working on Apollo died in a car crash. A NASA engineer fell down stairs. A photographer who documented Apollo problems died suddenly. One by one, people with inside knowledge stopped talking, forever. The pattern seemed too neat, too convenient. Each death removed someone who might speak up, someone who might say the moon landings were impossible with the technology they had. But were these really murders, or just terrible luck during dangerous times? The space program was rushing to beat Russia. Corners were cut. Safety came second to speed. Maybe the fire was exactly what NASA said, a horrible accident caused by careless mistakes. Yet the questions remain. Why did so many Apollo insiders die young? Why were Grissom's papers stolen? Why did the fire happen during a test that was supposed to be safe? Some say the Apollo 1 fire was the moment NASA decided to fake the moon landings instead of risk more lives. Others believe brave astronauts died because they threatened to expose lies already being told. The truth died with those three men in that burning capsule. We can only wonder what secrets they might have shared if they had lived. The fire changed everything. It made people ask if NASA would kill to protect its reputation. It planted seeds of doubt that grew into full conspiracy theories. Real tragedy became the foundation for decades of suspicion about what really happened when America claimed to touch the moon. Debunking and rebuttal, third-party investigations, and lunar evidence. The truth began to emerge from an unexpected source. In laboratories across the world, scientists held pieces of another world in their hands. These were not ordinary rocks. They were older than anything found on Earth, formed 4.5 billion years ago when our solar system was still young. The lunar samples brought back by Apollo missions told a story that no movie studio could fake. Their mineral makeup was unlike anything on our planet. They contained elements that could only form in the vacuum of space without air or water to change them. Scientists in Japan, Britain, and France all examined these rocks. They reached the same conclusion. These stones had never touched Earth's atmosphere. But the evidence did not stop there. Modern satellites began taking pictures of the moon's surface with cameras far better than anything from the 1960s. These images showed something remarkable. The Apollo landing sites were still there, footprints frozen in lunar dust, equipment left behind by astronauts. Even the paths where they walked remained visible after 50 years. The shadows on the moon never lie. Without wind or weather, nothing changes there. Every step taken by human feet stayed exactly where it was made. Perhaps the most telling proof came from an unexpected ally. During the space race, the Soviet Union watched America's every move. Their spies worked day and night to find any weakness they could use. Their scientists tracked radio signals from space. They had every reason to expose a fake moon landing if one existed. Yet the Soviets never claimed the landings were false. They congratulated America instead. If the most powerful enemy of the United States could not find proof of deception, what does that tell us? Still, the questions persist. New theories emerge faster than old ones can be answered. Some people believe the evidence itself was created as part of a larger plan. They point to government secrets and classified files as proof that nothing can be trusted. The rocks sit in laboratories today, waiting for anyone brave enough to examine them. The footprints remain on the lunar surface, photographed by multiple countries. The radio transmissions were heard around the world. Science offers its answers with open hands, but doubt clings like moon dust to those who choose to see shadows where others see light.